Oneiros Acoustics is a new British loudspeaker company. They recently launched their flagship speaker with a special listening session at the Power Station Recording Studios in New York. We were in attendance to put together this report for the select few at whom this speaker is targeted. It isn't every day that a new company is formed to take on the royalty of the speaker industry, which certainly includes Wilson, Magico, YG, Tidal, and MBL, along with a few others. The market for speakers between 6 and 7 figures probably is bigger than you think, but it's still small in terms of units sold. So the companies that operate in the upper reaches of the atmosphere are often doing it because it represents a challenge and a hope and a dream of the team in charge. That certainly seems to be the case with Oneiros. They seem to be following a dream that I found quite easy to comprehend. They're essentially asking, what would happen if we took current loudspeaker science, which is highly developed for cone drivers and cabinets, and removed the production constraints imposed by manufacturing tradition and cost? This is not the way to make speakers that perform well but cost less than what we're used to. It might, however, be a way to make speakers that transcend certain limitations. Let's see. In one sense, the starting point for Oneiros' work in this project was its location. The UK, of course, has a long tradition with the development and refinement of loudspeaker drivers and cabinets, with leadership roles having been played by the BBC, Bowers & Wilkins, and KEF, among others. But Oneiros recognized something additional and different in the UK. The area around the Silverstone racetrack is home to a large proportion of Formula One teams and their engineering and manufacturing talent. Oneiros wondered what would happen if they combined UK speaker engineering expertise with Formula One materials, computational techniques, and manufacturing. Oneiros has built a complete carbon fiber cabinet which is optimized for low resonance via shape, material layup, and damping, all based on FEA modeling. The tooling for these cabinets is massive and complex. They've married this with a giant aluminum front panel to which the drivers are mounted. The front curved panel is CNC machined from a single billet of aluminum. The drivers are designed by Oneiros. The woofers feature graphene nanocomposite cones, a 3-inch voice coil, and 2-inch peak-to-peak excursion. The Oneiros mid-range drivers are 3-inch graphene domes, which offer wide dispersion in their upper range thanks to this relatively small diameter for a mid-range. The tweeters are diamond 1-inch domes. The crossover is solidly constructed with special damping blocks and custom inductor support brackets. This sort of construction isn't inexpensive, of course, and that's an understatement in this case, as the speakers retail for $650,000 per pair in the US. Naturally, custom finishes are offered, and Oneiros has a design consultant to advise buyers on finishes and materials who has done the specifications for bespoke Range Rover interiors for the last 5 generations of those cars. High price, high customization, high service. That's lovely, but as we say, most of us can't reason from technical features to sound quality. So let's talk about that. Oneiros arranged a demo that we've seen attempted a few other times, but not at this level of effort. They held the launch of the Oneiros speakers at Power Station Recording Studios in New York, which is famed for recordings by Bruce Springsteen, Paul Simon, Madonna, Herbie Hancock, Bob Dylan, and many others. But they didn't stop at the venue. They had the Grammy Award-winning band Living Colour on hand to play a live session. The live session was recorded by Ron St. Germain, who has recorded Hendrix, Diana Ross, U2, The Cure, Red Hot Chili Peppers, McCoy Tyner, and many others, including Living Colour. The idea was to listen to the live session and then move to another studio where the new Oneiros speakers were set up, driven by JMF Electronics and Siltec cables with a feed from Ron's mixing console. It takes some guts to demo a new speaker this way. First, let me comment on the live performance. Oh, if only most live venues for jazz, rock, funk were like this. The studio we were in was medium-sized, but featured no parallel surfaces and was basically constructed of slat absorber walls. An intimate venue like this, I'd say it held an audience of about 25, is wonderful if tough to balance. You can see exactly what the musicians are doing, and the volume level doesn't need to be crazy. we measured an average of about 87 dB. Also, I had no idea who Living Color was, so I just listened. The first thing I noticed was that the bass player was great. Now, I like bass, and he played in a jazzy style as if bass were a lead instrument. I told him afterwards, you should consider a career as a bass player. I looked him up while flying back to Austin the next day just to see if he had a Wikipedia page. Holy Living Color's bass player is Doug Wimbish, who, in addition to 30 years with Living Color, has played with Depeche Mode, Mick Jagger, Annie Lennox, Billy Idol, the Rolling Stones, and Joe Satriani as a session musician. I really liked Living Color's drummer, too. He did interesting stuff and varied his dynamics and style with each song. Since I'm working on the problems DACs have, especially with cymbals, I asked him to demo his kit for me. As he explained each cymbal, he started with, I designed this cymbal too. So it turns out that his entire cymbal setup is custom, except for designs that Sabian now markets. Again, I thought, man, this guy is totally into sound quality just like we are. Again, I looked him up the next day. His name is Will Calhoun, and he was named #1 progressive drummer 3 times by Modern Drummer magazine. He's played with B.B. King, Jaco Pastorius, Wayne Shorter, Marcus Miller, and Public Enemy. I could go on because guitarist Vernon Reid, who founded the band, and vocalist Corey Glover were also outstanding. They demonstrated a touch and a feel for dynamics that is all too often lost in a loudness wars world. Next, we moved to an adjacent studio to listen to the recording of the multiple songs that Living Color had done. Ron had about, 10 minutes to do the mixing, which, even though he had a pair of Oneiros speakers in the control room, is just a quick tweak, not a full-on mixing and mastering job. I wish I could tell you that the Oneiros JMF system almost matched the live performance, but it didn't, and if you think about it, the reasons become clear, though maybe not for the reasons you're thinking of. Corey, the vocalist, was basically unamplified when we heard him in the studio, but his mic was fed into the recording console, just like the guitar, the bass, and the drums. So the balance live was very instruments forward, vocalist shy, and Ron mixed the recording with the vocalist front and center, which is probably how he heard it in the control room. It took about 10 seconds to recall that this is always a challenge in these demos. So I quickly switched gears to listening for the detectable qualities of the sound we heard. 3 things stood out. First, a sense of very low distortion, or, if you prefer, high transparency. Each musician sounded tonally right, with loads of natural detail. The detail in the studio, by the way, was phenomenal, yet relaxed. Second, the sense, which I've commented on in other top flight speaker reviews, that the differences in recordings are what you're hearing. In this case, track-to-track differences stood out. Lots of adjustments were made between tracks in the studio with different instruments and changed wiring and relocated mics and monitors. The pattern of loudspeaker error or coloration normally heard just isn't as big a factor as is normal with this level of speaker. Third, the lack of resonance is especially in the bass. This is hard to separate from room effects, but in this quick demo, the bass seemed beautifully quiet and detailed. In hindsight, I do wish I'd asked for better level matching. Many audio demos are too loud, but this one, given the comparison on offer to a live performance, would have been more fair and effective at maybe, 83 dB instead of at 77 or so. My bad, but that's why we do reviews where we have days, not minutes, to figure things out. A possible benefit of the error was that it seemed the speakers sounded surprisingly nice when played at lowish levels. All right, let me summarize. You can, of course, buy excellent speakers well below this price point. My impression after listening to a handful of these expensive assaults on the state-of-the-art is that you get a series of refinements on already very refined music reproduction. You also get speakers that are capable of that success in larger rooms. That's the rational bit, which is only part of what is on offer. Just as much, I think you're buying artisanal craftsmanship, advanced technology, special finishes, and excellent service. And you have to like the people involved in their philosophy and the resulting design. Oneiros' idea of F1 technology comes to audio made sense to me, but you might want something different. That's the glory of the marketplace. I hope you've enjoyed this preview of the new Oneiros loudspeaker. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.